welcome. We are gonna hop right into it. This project consists of two main parts, which is the front panel and the back panel. I already did my back panel, but luckily the front panel starts the exact same way, so I'm gonna show you guys how to get started on that. I am using yarn bee for this. This is what the color looks like. So to start this dress, we're actually gonna start off with this ribbon at the bottom full of single crochets. To start this project, you're going to need the measurement of your shoulder to shoulder width. Mine is about 16 and a half, 17. So I'm going to make this ribbon that exact same length. If you want this dress bigger, do a few inches more. I ended up doing 20 inches because I do want this dress to be a bit baggy. If you don't want it baggy, do your exact measurement, but I do suggest maybe putting about extra inch, just because when you sew the panels together you might lose a little bit of space. And you're going to start off with a chain of 8. Do your slip knot and then chain 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. After that, we're going to go into the second chain from the loop with a single crochet. After you do that, you're going to finish off this row with single crochet. So 1 single crochet into each loop. And when you get to the end of the row, you're going to chain 1, flip your work, and continue with the same pattern right into that first stitch. So 1 single crochet right into that first stitch. And then you're going to finish off the row the same way, 1 single crochet into every stitch. Now you're going to continue this again until you reach your desired length. I'm on my 4th row and you can see it's kind of forming into our ribbon. So again, you're going to continue this until you hit your desired length, and then come back and you'll be ready for step 2. Now for the second row, we're just going to continue with single crochets, but we're going to continue across the line. So we're just going to place 1 single crochet into each row. You kind of just open it up a bit, and then each hole you see, place a single crochet into it. So I'm just going to do that. And then I think I should add that I do not chain 1 or anything. I just go right into it and then do my single crochet. Next one, single, next one, single. And then you're going to continue that to the end of the row and then meet me here. This is what it should be looking like. Reach the end of your row with your single crochet. You're going to chain 2 and flip your work. So we're going to chain 1, chain 2, flip our work. And then we're going to do a double crochet into that first chain along with the singles you just did. So 1 double crochet. So now this counts as your starter for the row. So you should have 2 double crochet into that first chain. Then you're going to skip the next 4 stitches. So we're going to get ready to put a double crochet into that 5th chain. 2 3 4. Go into that 5th one with a double crochet. Ooh, I hate when that happens. Okay, and then you are going to do 4 more double crochets into that stitch, and that's what's gonna give you this like shell pattern. 4 more. 1 2 3 4. And then you're gonna keep doing that until you reach the end of the row. So skip 4, 1 2 3 4, double crochet into that 5th one, and then 4 more, so you should have 5 in each shell. And then I will meet you at the end of the row. And this is how we started it, with two double crochets into the last loop. If yours looks like mine, so I know I said we're skipping 5, but I have 6, just go into that last chain. So if you have 3 left, go into that third one. If you have 4 left, just go into the fourth one. And we're going to do 2 double crochets. So 1, 2, and that is how we end our row. Now you're going to chain 2 and flip your work. So 2, flip it. We're going to go right back into that same chain with a double crochet. Then we're going to go into the third chain in the shell. So you should have 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and then you're going to enter into the middle with a double crochet. And then we're going to continue the pattern to continue our shells. So you're going to go on with 4 more double crochets to complete that 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that is another shell. So we're going to keep going, and then once you reach your end, you're going to go with 2 double crochets in here as well. So yeah, let's do another one together. So double crochet, you want to skip 2 in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then boom, you have another shell. You're going to keep going until you finish your back panel. So your back panel should be the length of how long you want your dress. I went from my shoulder to about mid-thigh, and just like, you know, every few rows, get up and put it against your back, see how long it is. Like I said, this project consists of 2 panels, the front and the back. So you're going to finish that back panel, finish it off, tie it off, and then you are going to do this process all over again. The only thing is, for your front panel, you are going to stop about midway, a little, like 3/4 of the way, but just come back for that. The back panel laid out. Now this is the front panel. Remember, I told you to stop when you're halfway through, and then you're going to put it up against your body and just kind of see where you are. I want my neckline deep, but not that deep, so I went up about 2 more rows past the halfway mark, just to make my front panel a bit longer. That way, when I put it up against my body, my neckline will start right here after you get the length of your dress. I kind of want it to be a little short, like a mini dress. All right, so now it's time to continue on with our front panel after we've gotten our halfway or desired length. And I'm gonna fasten off. And please leave your ends right away, so that way at the end of your project, you're not like fastening off 20 different. After you fasten off your end, we're gonna take our front panel and fold it in half, so we can get ready to work on our V neckline. So after you fold it in half, this is the bottom, this is the top. We're gonna take that middle part, and then we wanted to, I'm gonna do about 1 on each side. Let me see, 1 shell on each side and open it up and see how deep that would be. So if I did 1 shell, I'm gonna make a stitch marker. If I did 1 shell each, then I will have this, so if I did 1 shell each, I would have a neckline about this wide, which I think is okay for me. I was gonna do 2, but I don't know. I think 1 each is okay. You could do 1, you could do 2. Hell, you could do 1.5. I'm gonna do 1 because I think my neckline is already pretty deep, so I don't want it to be wide as well. And yeah, guys, don't be afraid to kind of play around with your projects. If I'm doing something and you think it's too long, too wide, too short, then you can just make yours longer, make yours shorter, make yours slimmer. It's supposed to fit you, and that's what I love about crochet. It's like, do whatever you want, like listening to my little TED talk. But we're gonna go on. So now that you have your stitch marker separating your 2 panels that you're about to create, you're just gonna reattach your yarn, and then
I'm currently editing, and I wanted to clarify something here. So if my back panel is 50 rows and I am now working on my front panel, and maybe I stopped at 30 rows when I reached my desired neckline, that means I now have 20 more rows to do for each panel on each side to reach the top of my back panel. I hope that makes sense. Let's continue.
Of your back panel. I'm about to reconnect to start working on my panels in the front. I put my stitch markers, obviously marking 1 on each side. So when I start, I'm not gonna start in that first loop, I'm gonna start in the middle loop. So I marked 1 on each side, but it's really gonna be about like 1.5. But I'm just gonna start right away, and I'm gonna continue on with 5 double crochets into 1 loop. I'm gonna chain 2 first to make it 1 double crochet, and then I'm gonna go on with 4 double crochets. Oop. I hate when that happens, oh my gosh. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we are just going to continue on like usual. And I will be back when I reach the top. So this, hello, it's me from the future. For this entire project, we have been double crocheting twice at the end or at the edge of our rows. Now on the inside, when you start and you reattach your first panel, you should only be double crocheting once to continue your line or keep your line straight. And I'm gonna show you what I mean. With my right panel, and for the first row, when I reattached my yarn, I just went straight into it. I made 5 double crochets to make my shell, and I went on with my row. I double crocheted twice at the end of the row, and then came back here. On the inside, I'm just going to find a random pocket and double crochet once, chain 2, and then I'm gonna flip my work and go straight into making 5 double crochets for my shell, and keep going until I hit the end, the outer edge of our panel. Chain 2, do our double crochet, whatever we usually do, and then come back and do the same thing. So double crochet once, chain 2, turn. So you should have 1 double crochet on the inside to form your neckline, but continue on with 2 double crochet on the outside to make sure your project stays straight. On to our next step, we are going to sew this project together. Now let me grab my darning needle in case you're a beginner. There's 2 ways you can sew your project together. You can either use one of these, which is called a darning needle. They are much thicker and bigger than a regular sewing needle, thick enough to fit yarn in. you can do that. For something like this, I would not. I am actually going to reattach some yarn and I'm going to slip stitch my way across whatever area needs to be sewn together. So we're sewing two areas together. We are sewing across the top, our front panel to our back, the shoulders, and you're just gonna sew until you reach one end, and then detach your yarn, sew the other panel. I'm gonna use a slip stitch. I think I said that, I'm not sure. Guys, I've been working on this for a while. And then you're gonna sew the sides of your project, both sides. So when I say I slip stitch my way across my project instead of sewing, I'm gonna show you guys what I mean. And I just, right now I'm working on one of the shoulders, stitching the front panel to the back. So I did a slip knot and I reattached my yarn like I would for any other project. And I'm literally gonna go into each hole connecting them and slip stitch. So you see I have one shell on top of another shell, making sure I'm in the same stitch in each panel. And I'm just gonna slip stitch my way. So I'm going to do this last stitch and then flip my project the right way so you guys can see what your stitch would look like when you're done. So when I turn, it's just so much more seamless. Okay, so I finished one shoulder, and let me show you from inside out what it would look like when I'm finished. Look at that. So this is the benefit of slip stitching your way across. I honestly think it just looks better. Now, my collar is we're gonna work on this collar basically in one big piece. So we're gonna work on this collar off the project and then attach it. But I want my collar to wrap around everything, right? So I'm gonna measure this so I can see how long my collar should be or get like a rough estimate. And in reality, you can work on your collar and like just continuously kind of see where you're at. But instead of doing that, so you can kind of just work without stopping, we're gonna measure this. So I have 13, turn my corner, 20 inches, turn my corner. So about 32 inches is the length I want my collar to be. I also kind of want my collar to overlap. So in the beginning of this project, when we split our neckline, so we had an even amount of shells on each side, I think I ended up with about like 1.5 shells. So 1.5 shells is about 2 inches. So instead of 2 inches, I'm gonna make my collar 2.5 inches. That way, when I'm attaching this and they meet back in the middle, they kind of overlap each other to give me that V shape I want for my neckline. So we're working on a 2.5 inch thick single crochet collar that is going to be about 32 inches long. Now, obviously those are my measurements depending on, you know, how short or long you made your neckline. Maybe you're doing 35, maybe you're doing 20 inches, but just do it to your measurements. And then once you make your band, you're gonna come back and then we'll attach it together. My ribbon on the bottom, I remember chaining 8 before I continued on, which gave me about this like 2-inch thickness. So for my collar, I ended up chaining 10, and that comes up to about right past the halfway mark, just a little bit past. So it comes up to like halfway through my chain, or sorry, my shell on the other side. So I chained 10, and now I'm gonna start working on the thickness of my ribbon. So I chained 10, I'm gonna yarn over, skip the first chain, go into the second, and then start working on my ribbon.
Okay guys, so I finished my really long ribbon for my collar and I'm laying it down. The thickness of my band kind of comes a little bit more than halfway across my neckline, the halfway point. Because remember I said I wanted to overlap. So I'm just gonna lay it out, turn my project, kind of lay it back out. And then when I come here back to the front, you can see my neckline kind of overlaps each other, which is exactly what I wanted. So if you don't want it to overlap, not to confuse you, but just don't make your ribbon as thick as mine and it won't overlap. Really simple, easy fixes. Just remember, I am here as a guide. When you're doing this, don't go flipping your neckline all types of crazy directions. The edge that you start on with, so for example, I'm about to start sewing here. Please take a second, realize that you are on the same edge, and then turn. So that, take a second and turn. Because you might get confused and start thinking, oh, okay, I'm on the back now, so I have to like do it this way, and then once you try to put it on, your collar is all twisted. So just sew one side down. Okay, it's sewn down, so now you can start with the other. Okay, it's sewn down, and then boom. Little quick update. I finished sewing or slip stitching my collar on, and I flipped my project inside out. So now I can see what I was talking about, how I wanted my neckline to overlap a little bit. So we're gonna move on to, and please don't forget to weave your ends. I need to weave that in. But now we're gonna move on to the arms. I just wanna say, if you are still here and you've gotten to this point of your project, round of applause for you, because I know this was tedious and very time consuming. Last thing we have to do is our arms. I'm gonna do the same thing as for my arms as I did like for my collar and my bottom. We're gonna do a ribbon of single crochet. For my collar, I made it off and obviously reattached it on. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna work on it like we did our collar on the bottom. So I'm gonna take my yarn, reattach it, and it's single crochet. So this is really simple. But we're just gonna attach some yarn. Because we're on the arm and the edges are, they're straight, but they're not regular stitches. They're like the 2 double crochet. I would suggest reattaching your yarn, doing maybe 2 single crochet in each stitch, just so you can get your foundation. And then after that, you continue on like the other 2 ribbons. You chain 1 before you start the new row, and then you go on with your single crochet, chain 1, new row, single crochet, and then I think I'm gonna do about 1 inch, so maybe half of the thickness of my bottom border. And then we will be done with our project. So attach some yarn, work on your 2 ribbons for your armholes, and I will see you when you're done and when I'm done with that. So I finally finished the mini dress I've been working on. And I wanted to show you guys because this took 2 weeks and I am so proud of myself. Part of me kind of wishes I added pockets, but I'm over this. I'm done with this project and I am so excited.